June 24th, the center of Moscow has been blown up. The Ukrainian armed forces are attacking Moscow, the city center, and the Moscow region.
This is such a tragedy right now.
Drones are crashing into high-rise buildings. There's a fire there.
We're filming. Here are the fragments. Look, that apartment is on fire. It exploded so terribly. I just managed to run away in time.
Everything is burning. Apartments on fire. There are screams. A large-scale evacuation is underway. A carpet regime has been introduced at Vnukovo and Sheremetyevo airport. Takeoffs and landings are prohibited. There's panic and evacuation there. The Security Service of Ukraine has launched a new phase of the web special operation. Train convoys carrying military equipment and fuel have been blown up. And the Navy has also destroyed a boat belonging to Russia's Black Sea Fleet. It has been blown up. We'll discuss the attacks on the Black Sea Fleet, military airfields, trains carrying tanks, fuel and equipment, as well as the explosions in Moscow and the Moscow region with Oleksandr Demchenko right now.
Breaking news, friends, it's June 24th. The Ukrainian armed forces are once again attacking Moscow, the city center, and the Moscow region. Drones are crashing into high-rise buildings thanks to Russian electronic warfare, of course. There's a fire, apartments are burning, people are screaming, and a large-scale evacuation is underway. At Vnukovo and Sheremetyevo airports, the carpet plan has been implemented, and takeoffs and landings are prohibited. There's already a massive collapse at passport control in Vnukovo. There are huge crowds of passengers there. Everyone is sobbing and crying because no one can depart. People are arguing, almost fighting, according to Russian social media channels. The main intelligence directorate blew up trains carrying fuel and military equipment. And the naval forces destroyed a boat belonging to Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Ukrainian forces struck a boat off the western coast of Kherson. The attack on the Atlas oil depot for the first time in a very long while. We are attacking a refinery. We'll discuss the new special operations by the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the main intelligence directorate, and the Security Service of Ukraine with top analyst Oleksandr Demchenko right now. Sasha, welcome.
Hello, Dasha. So what about the airplanes? What can you tell me about airfields and airports? What does Vnukovo mean to us? Just now, Malu came out and said that an attack on the Security Service of Ukraine was being prepared. An explosion was being planned at the SBU headquarters on Volodymyrska Street in Kyiv. What does this mean? It means that the Ukrainian Security Service, and probably Ukrainian intelligence as well, are preparing major explosions, preparing blasts at decision-making centers. I think, I don't know if there will be an explosion on Lubyanka Square. I somewhat doubt that they will actually blow up the Lubyanka specifically, but for some reason, it's likely that the General Staff or the Zarbata on Frunzenskaya, as well as a number of other strategically important decision-making centers, will be blown up or there will be some kind of explosions. So we understand that for Kyiv right now, there's just a terrible tragedy in Dnipro, for those who don't know. A strike on a passenger train, 14 schools and kindergartens were just hit. Children have been injured, including fatalities. So, friends, let's come together, support each other, leave likes and comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Dasha's YouTube channel, to Dmitry Gordon's YouTube channel, where all of this is also being published. But what's very important, Dasha, is that, of course, there will be a response. It's ongoing. And there will be a special operation called Web 2. I can just feel it with every part of me. I don't even know what, with my gills, my nerves, my gut, whatever. I just feel it. Very soon, there will be Web 2. I don't know what's going to go up in flames. Will it be Putin's plane? Will there be an explosion? Will Putin's plane be blown up? Or will they blow up Shoigu? Or maybe the elimination of Medvedev, who recently started threatening Trump. And Putin, I even heard that Putin beat him up at night. Putin's security guards beat up Medvedev. Well, what do you expect? After making statements like that, drunk, he started talking about how he almost told Trump that he would hand over nuclear missiles to Iran. Trump started threatening him, and apparently Putin just snapped. He had already been shaking for several days in a row. I can see that the special operation will continue. I have told you repeatedly that the Ukrainian armed forces, Ukrainian intelligence, the intelligence community, and Ukrainian security forces in general, let's put it that way, are creating conditions under which any potential of the Russian army's military technical capabilities is being destroyed in order to block and neutralize Russian offensive actions now in various directions. This includes Donbass, the southeast specifically, and of course the northern direction, where Putin wants to take Sumy, where Putin wants to create the so-called sanitary zone. Although at this point, he's the one who needs to call for medics. And if not for him, then for all his associates, Medvedev and all the rest. But the fact that everything has come to a standstill, the fact that Sobyanin is shouting, having already twice ended up in intensive care and come out after a stroke, these are the kinds of news that are absolutely logical and consistent. Ukraine is consistently striking military targets and has started hitting oil refineries again, as you mentioned. But it was Russia that first violated the so-called energy truce just recently. It was Russia, Kyiv was burning just now. Literally the day before yesterday, Kyiv was burning, right? And yesterday, Kyiv was burning as well. And every time, these were strikes, including on energy infrastructure. And part of the city was left without electricity. And not just Kyiv, they are striking Sumy region as well, leaving people without power, without water. And Lviv region recently, they hit Lviv and left people without electricity and water. They are targeting energy facilities. So why the hell shouldn't Ukraine strike those energy facilities in return? It's obvious that any truce has been broken. It's obvious that the so-called energy pause has been disrupted, that Trump got busy with other things, started leaking or shifting something and so on. Well, that's it. This means the board has been flipped over and that Ukraine has resumed strikes on oil refineries. And against the backdrop of the worsening economic crisis in Russia, Russia's Minister of Economic Development, Reshetnikov, came out, had the nerve, such an insolent guy, and said right to Putin's face, the country is in recession, take cover in the wheat fields, it's over for everyone. Well, how can someone be so rude to say such terrifying words in front of the president of Russia, words incomprehensible to the Russian people recession? What kind of un-Russian word is that? He should have just said, the economy is screwed or we're in deep trouble. That's it for the Russian Federation. But they've calculated it precisely, yes, that it'll last until the end of this year, and that's all. And after that, they can't go any further. If oil stays like this, even if Trump is like this, if the sanctions are like this, if Ukraine keeps resisting like this, then that's it. We have to understand ourselves. We've seen over the past few days a whole cycle of these various informational events, right? The news that comes to us, an assassination attempt on Zelensky in Poland was foiled, an attempt on Yermak's brother was foiled, an attempt on Dmytro Gordon was foiled. Why? Because apparently Putin has realized for himself that he can't do anything about Ukraine. He can't take Ukraine. So that means he needs to eliminate the leadership and completely stir things up from within to create some kind of chaos here inside Ukraine. He can't do it any other way, and he won't be able to. He realized that he's stuck. He realized that it's all failed. He realized that the summer offensive won't give him anything except some isolated PR. Well, listen, World War II lasted 4 years right here on this territory. If we're talking about after the attack on the Soviet Union, it went on for much longer. Some people count from 39. I personally count from 32 or 33, but that's not important. A major war lasted 4 years here on this territory of the Soviet, post-Soviet space. And what result? Berlin. And here, damn it, what does he have? 3.5 years, and in general, much longer. He's been sitting in this swamp. Russians are dying in droves. He's transferring these corpses to Ukraine so that he doesn't have to bury them himself and spend money on them. Not a penny, not a kopeck. And he himself, by and large, he can't do anything. He can't do anything. That's why what we're seeing now, and we see even more of it going forward, Vnukovo will be blown up and yet another fleet will explode. They're threatening with the Baltic fleet over there, but they might just blow it to hell themselves or sink their own fleet. They don't care. And they'll have problems in Crimea and in Siberia. If Siberia has already gone up in flames once, why shouldn't it happen a second time? Everything always repeats itself. The show just keeps going along the same track. A good show gets performed several times. Then it's premiere after premiere after premiere. You know that, right? A good show can have a premiere 3 or 4 times. It's the same. Here there will be Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and Web 4. It's not for nothing that Mario came out and said there was an attempt to destroy the main headquarters, the main SBU office in Kyiv. A director, the head of such a service, doesn't just say things like that for no reason. That means a response is being prepared, and it means that the response will target the most important decision-making centers.
Sasha, what is your opinion on the strikes and the destruction of the Russian Black Sea Fleet's boats? Because it's reported that since the beginning of the war, Russia has already lost 28 ships and boats due to these threats. The Russian fleet is withdrawing from occupied Sevastopol. The main forces are now in Novorossiysk, and only submarines remain in Crimea. I would really like us to eliminate all the ships in Novorossiysk and all the submarines, of course.
I'm not laughing because of the boat, Dasha. The boat is, of course, very good. It's a major achievement. In general, any strike and sinking of a boat, the destruction of an aircraft, is a very difficult task. The destruction of an entire train of tanks, like what happened recently, right? They wiped out a whole train of Russian tanks. That's a huge achievement. 41 aircraft. That's enormous. That's a legendary achievement. I'm laughing for another reason. Who is in charge of the boats in Russia? Nikolai Platonovich Patrushev. We've talked about Putin having a stroke, a heart attack, and Sobyanin having 2 strokes. I think after losing yet another boat, Patrushev is already in intensive care with a stroke or a heart attack, that he's completely short-circuited. Well, damn. He's lost the Black Sea Fleet. Ukraine doesn't have a navy. The sea is blockaded. The fleet really has been degrading from the very beginning, ever since independence, just constantly deteriorating. Russia tried to cut it up, destroy it. Well, they did everything. Occupied Crimea, did it all, blockaded the Sea of Azov and part of the Black Sea. And then Ukraine went and destroyed the Russian Federation's fleet in the Black Sea. All right, fine. Where is Ukraine and where is the Pacific Ocean? Where is the Desanaya Bay? Well, they marched They traveled tens, hundreds of thousands of meters, kilometers. They made it there and blew up the Russian Pacific Fleet to smithereens. The strategic fleet, damn it, the nuclear triad, my friends. Who's in charge of all this? Now they're shouting that the Baltic Fleet will be sunk. They'll sink it themselves. They'll do everything themselves out of their own stupidity. Narishkin and Patrushev together. But who's to blame for this? Who commands the entire Navy and oversees these matters in Putin's administration? Patrushev. So what? Where are the results? All we have are sinkings, nothing but sinkings. He sent him there out of spite, so he wouldn't try to grab power and push his own son in there. Well, fine, he sent him and that's that. He was supposed to oversee one fleet, another, a third, a fourth, and so on. Well, fine, the cruiser Moskva sank. Let's say that's not Patrushev's fault, although he was the secretary of the Security Council at the time. But what about now? This is your area of responsibility. And over there it's on fire, over there it's sinking, and over there bridges are blowing up. And where are you? I'll tell you where. He's busy with agriculture. He's sending expensive potatoes to Lukashenko. He's taking potatoes from Lukashenko cellars and so on. But the most interesting thing is something else. He has Rossellhozbank, Patrushev and his son. What is Rossellhozbank for those who don't know? Rossellhozbank is the main cesspool in Russia through which all the money is laundered, all the foreign currency, because it is not under sanctions, it's not sanctioned. And the Europeans and Americans don't want to put it under sanctions. So that's what he's busy with, laundering money for himself and for Putin. And recently he even seized Domodedovo. All right, so you say there's a magic carpet at Domodedovo. Who has the magic carpet? Where is this Aladdin sitting? Nikolai Platonovich? There you go. And somewhere around him, his own little monkey Abu is running around. Dima Medvedev, who drunkenly shouts every single day that he has some kind of nuclear warhead for this or that country. He has a nuclear bomb for Ukraine. He has a nuclear bomb for Iran. He has a nuclear bomb for Trump. At this rate, he'll end up with a nuclear bomb dropping somewhere in his own backyard. But the problem is something else, Dasha. You see, we joke around like this, but there's another point. Recently, they started talking about a dirty bomb. Did you notice? Putin has already started talking about it. A dirty bomb, Ukraine is making one. I'm trying, I'll do everything to make sure Ukraine doesn't strike. I hope they won't strike. First of all, Ukraine doesn't have the technology right now to make, at least for Putin, a dirty bomb. Although, to be honest, I'd rather put him not so much in a bunker as in a portable toilet. But just imagine the headline. Putin's portable toilet blown up. The whole Kremlin covered in crap. But Dasha, that's not the point. The point is something else. Look, I'm glad to see you smiling. See, I managed to lift your spirits a bit today. I hope I did the same for you too, dear viewers, my friends. So the thing is, they are probably going to escalate the situation. They are probably, in a sense, telling all of us, look, we are preparing a provocation involving something nuclear. But what kind of nuclear provocation could they be preparing? Well, they need their own nuclear power plants, but there are others as well. Well, for example, Zaporizhia. I'm worried that in the near future, they will try to carry out another act of sabotage, a provocation, an arson, some kind of explosion, or shelling of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant in order to use it for blackmail here. But if Trump was able to strike, as they believe, not with nuclear weapons, but with weapons deadly to nuclear arsenals bombs, the most powerful and lethal aerial bombs in the world, from B-2 bomber aircraft, and that means we can do the same. That's where all the talk about a dirty bomb comes from. That's the way out. Look, we're mass producing Oreshnik now, so we're going to use Oreshnik. We're going to strike Kyiv or whatever else he decides to hit with his Oreshnik. Will it reach its target or not? We don't know. But why? If Trump is allowed to do it, then I can too. That's what Vladimir Putin thinks. You see, Putin didn't finish off Iran, even though he could have, and that was a mistake. If he had finished them off back then, it would have been the end for Putin too. But these guys thought, he didn't finish them off. So if we hit with Oreshnik, or if we use a dirty bomb, or pull off some other kind of nuclear stunt, well, nothing will happen to us either. Nothing happened to him, so nothing will happen to us either. And why not? That's what Vladimir Putin is thinking to himself. And attention, here's the most important question. When Donald Trump was negotiating about Iran through Lukashenko, when he was carefully setting all this up at that particular time, how would Donald Trump have reacted to such provocative maneuvers and actions coming from the Kremlin? After all, it's obvious to everyone there, to all those guys in the Kremlin, that yes, events are accelerating, they're pushing everything forward because there are no achievements, nothing to sell, and they need to do something. They need to do something massive, something big and significant, so that, everything turns upside down, so that Trump understands everything. Let's sit down, sign, and stop shooting. Just like with Israel and Iran, the Israelis were winning. And then he stepped in and said, let's keep everything as it is. I destroyed 3 factories there, and that's enough. And the fact that they took out some of the missiles, and the fact that Putin, I'm already sure of it, Dasha Putin, on the contrary, has now made a decision. Just last night, at night, he decided to create nuclear weapons in Iran. He needs this. He needs a precedent. He needs another North Korea in the region, but in a different one. Do you understand? That's the kind of world we live in, a world where you strike once and think that's it, that's enough. But in reality, we could have finished the job, and we didn't. Just like with Putin.
Friends, please like this video. Write a few kind words in the comments to support Ukraine, and let us know where you're watching from. Share your thoughts about this news and about the information from Oleksandr Demchenko. And one very important point, Sasha, I just remember the words of Andriy Yermak, who made a statement that Ukraine has already tested ballistic missiles and is preparing to launch them into mass production. This is supposed to happen in the near future. He didn't specify exactly when, but he said that ballistic missiles have already undergone successful tests at the front. And considering that military targets in Moscow and St. Petersburg are practically inviting us to attack them. And Garbolin also gave an interview to the BBC where he said that Ukraine should, among other things, have nuclear weapons. And Ukraine is capable of mass producing ballistic missiles. What is your general opinion on the prospect of Ukrainian ballistic missiles and attacks on military targets in St. Petersburg and Moscow, to the point where Russians simply have no life left?
I think that ballistic missiles will appear in the near future. I think that Ukraine will launch ballistic missiles at military targets, including those in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Leningrad region, and Moscow region. All of this will happen. And of course, this will ruin all of Vladimir Putin's plans. We shouldn't think that Ukraine will engage in terrorism. Unlike Russia, we do not commit acts of terror on their territory. But as for military targets, for military objectives, of which there are many, and which are simply spread out across the vast territory of the Russian Federation, those strikes will happen. Ukraine will soon have those missiles, long-range Neptunes and other missiles that will, in one way or another, replace the shells, the ammunition, the missiles that Germany, the United States, and a number of other countries are not yet providing us in sufficient quantities.
Yes.
Or are not giving permission to use those missiles to strike certain military targets. And this will already be a Ukrainian development. As for nuclear weapons, Dash, officially, Ukraine will not have nuclear weapons. Obviously, we don't want to get ourselves into a situation like Iran's. We understand perfectly well that even at the beginning of Israel's nuclear developments, the Americans imposed sanctions. The Americans opposed it. They restricted, did not transfer aircraft, and even took back American F-16s, by the way, at that time. All of that happened. So there's no need to get involved in that. But officially, it won't happen. After all, Israel also didn't do anything official. But if you're being threatened by a thug who's holding not just a pistol, but a nuclear pistol,
yes,
what are you going to do if America keeps screwing you over? If all of Europe has caved in and is just waiting for a call from America, what are you going to do? So when we for many, many years talked about Ukraine following the Israeli scenario in one form or another, we were right. All those people who said that, for one simple reason, there just isn't any other option. I'm not calling for the creation of anything. I'm just thinking logically. I always think logically. If you're facing a nuclear club, you have to defend yourself with something. That means you need to have a small nuclear stone or some other kind of countermeasure, something else to oppose it, so to speak, a kind of remedy for this disease. That's the first point. Second, obviously, and I'm repeating myself here, Israel also officially doesn't have anything. It hasn't signed any treaties on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. It doesn't hold any conferences. In Dimona, there are, 90 or however many missiles. And that's enough for them. So that there's no Iran nearby, no nuclear threats against them, and so that no one threatens them with anything. And the Americans have sided with Israel, not just now, but for the last 10 or 20 years, regardless of the aid and so on, for many, many decades. Why did they side with them? Well, when you have an ally who truly has everything you could possibly imagine, the newest, the most advanced technology available, can effortlessly conquer the airspace of a country that's, well, as big as 4 Germanys and Frances combined in just a few days, so why wouldn't you join them? That's why I think that as soon as Ukraine gets very powerful weapons, I'm not talking about nuclear. I'm not talking about nuclear weapons. I've never advocated for that. In fact, I believe that the most wonderful world is a world without nuclear weapons. One of the biggest mistakes ever was the creation of nuclear weapons. But when as soon as Ukraine has modern weapons, truly modern forces and means, as soon as it becomes clear to everyone that Ukraine can independently defend itself against any neighbor, and not just neighbors, no matter which country it is,
Yes.
then we won't have any problems with allies or with money or with funding or with military programs or with the economy. Everyone will shut up about corruption and anti-corruption, damn it. And everyone will be talking about how good, beautiful, strong, and developed Ukraine is. Because Ukraine will have everything it needs to, if necessary, rattle its keychain, in front of this or that face.
Friends, let us know in the comments what you think about Oleksandr Demchenko's latest statements. We work for an audience all over the world, so every like, every comment, and every subscription is invaluable. Sash?
Yes, and friends, also write how much you like our duet with Dasha, because we work like tractors every single time. Right, Dash?
Sasha plus Dasha is our new format, which comes out every week on my channel and on Dmitry Gordon's channel. They detonated explosives twice, each time with 1,100 kilograms. The head of the SBU on the third strike against the Crimean Bridge, the first time the SBU struck the Crimean Bridge in 2022 using a vehicle loaded with 21 tons of explosives in TNT equivalent. And in 2023, it was attacked by 2 SBU-C baby combat drones over the water, and the third time underwater. We used 100 kilograms of explosives, and then another 100 kilograms or twice, 100 kilograms each on the key supports of the illegal structure, stated SBU Chief Maliuk. Sasha, so when will the Kerch Bridge finally collapse? The main news, of course, will be its destruction.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Well, yes, at some point it will collapse anyway. We all understand perfectly well that anything installed illegally by the occupying authorities will eventually collapse. I have a question. Well, do you know why he smiled when you said that? I understand Maluk's psychology a little. I can just imagine what's going on in his head. He's probably sitting there, and when they showed him those numbers, right? Like 100 and something, what was it? 1,100, or how much was it?
1,100 kilograms plus another 1,100 kilograms.
So he adds it up, 2,200. Damn, it wasn't enough. Next time it'll probably be 5,000 or 10,000. Basically, he's already gathering explosives. What you're doing, the way you're counting it, it needs to be explained in very simple terms. Vasily Maliuk is collecting new explosives for the Crimean Bridge. He wants to do it for the 4th time. Apparently, he has some kind of fetish, some sort of personal thing that he wants to destroy the Crimean Bridge to, go down in history as the one who destroyed the Crimean Bridge. And I think he's preparing not only himself for this, but all of Ukraine and the Russian Federation along with Putin. By the way, Dasha, I think that in Russia, they are really afraid of Maliuk. Really afraid. I think Putin is afraid of Maliuk. I think his whole gang is afraid of Maliuk. It seems to me they probably have some kind of anti-Maliuk keychains, some anti-Maliuk deodorants. Whatever you can imagine, they already have it. By the way, I think we should start sending them some merch already. Something a little bit explosive with pictures of Vasil Vasilovich Maliuk on it. But they're absolutely terrified. And he's creative, They expect something standard, but he's creative. One time he stuffs those trucks, then he sends out scooters, then he's looking for explosives like those sea baby things, figuring out which explosives would blow up the Crimean Bridge better or something else. They're sitting there thinking, damn, he could stuff the Kremlin with those drones or fill up gun with those drones too. And now, probably, they're checking Ostankino and Solovyov's place every single day. Maybe there's already a drone from Maliuk hidden somewhere inside Solovyov's place. No one knows, you see? They're terribly afraid. And it's very obvious from how intensely they always react to Maliuk's statements. At Maliuk, at Budanov too, by the way, and at all of them, at our entire intelligence community and at the security, at our law enforcement community, they're extremely afraid, no matter what. And these strikes on Kyiv, on Dnipro, that terrible strike on those children, yes, and there were strikes on Kharkiv too. This is out of helplessness. He can't do anything, he can't conquer, he can't subdue, he wants capitulation, he craves it, but there is no capitulation. He wants to remove Zelensky. He wants the destruction of Ukraine and Ukrainians, and he can't achieve it in any way. He's already trying everything, and nothing is working. And his biggest problem is that Putin, has surrounded himself with people who are, to some extent, professionally unfit, who are unable to oversee the areas to which he has appointed them. Yes, they can steal like Tsarikov under Shoigu, or like Timur Ivanov, who is now facing 14.5 years. But they can't do anything else. That Timur Ivanov was put in charge of building Crimea and Mariupol. Where are Crimea and Mariupol now? All that's left is ruin and devastation. But he stole the money, and they're not capable of anything else. Then Chemezov from Rostek, Putin's buddy, a KGB man, comes in and says, we don't have enough money, damn it, we can't do anything. The Pantsir there are already 48 of those missile systems standing there. We sent the Pantsir to Iran, and it didn't work, damn it, the Pantsir. You see? They're all incompetent over there. And he understands this perfectly well.
Sasha, we absolutely have to discuss the sabotage operations. These are the trains with military equipment, with fuel. So we remember how a train carrying military equipment was attacked dozens of tanks and other military hardware. And just in the last 2 days, information has come out that the Jurta main intelligence directorate also eliminated, destroyed, blew up trains on the occupied territory of Ukraine, in southern Ukraine, carrying fuel and military equipment. That's also a successful operation. I wish things like that would happen on Russian territory as well. What do you think?
And why is this important? Besides the fact that we're stating that this is a successful operation. Why is it important? Because if you destroy the fuel, the equipment comes to a halt.
Yes.
They arrive, ready to fight, ready to push forward, ready to kill, right? And they stood up, and they become an easy target for Ukrainian drones, for Ukrainian missiles, artillery, and so on, mortars, and so on and so on. The equipment is immobilized. Can you launch an conduct offensive operations with equipment that's stuck? Remember, February, March of 2022, loaded in the swamps? They did. The fuel didn't arrive on time. There was no fuel. They were marching, carrying their dress uniforms in their backpacks. They wanted to parade through Kiev. They were coming from everywhere. From Sumy region, they pushed forward. Somewhere near Zhytomyr, they tried to go around Chernihiv. Kiev, they were pushing from all directions. Well, they got bogged down. And where are they all now? Are they having their parade there, or rather in hell at the parade? That's why this is important, Dasha. It's important because, and I keep repeating this if we're being serious, I've said it many times and I'll keep saying it. Right now, Putin's summer offensive is being disrupted and they're hitting the rear. They're striking fuel, they're hitting oil refineries, they're targeting factories and plants, they're attacking drone equipment there, they're hitting arsenals, they're striking aircraft, they're hitting railways. Not the FSB one, the one that was destroyed in Bryansk, in the Bryansk region, but they're hitting other railway lines of military significance. They're destroying entire freight trains loaded with tanks. All of this is to disrupt the summer offensive. And notice there are results. We've started to recapture settlements one after another in the Sumy region. Already, gradually.
Maya Filatova made an official statement. In Dnipro, 19 schools, 10 kindergartens, a vocational school, a music school, and medical institutions were affected. I want to say that with Trump's rise to power, the situation with missile and drone attacks has worsened by more than 50%. All the military analysts have written about this. In other words, Trump is now simply absolute evil, a horror that he has brought into the world. Trump, in essence, has blessed Putin to carry out permanent missile strikes and drone attacks on the territory of our country. I just read about it now. Analysts are saying that Russia will soon be launching 500, 600 drones. Russia is capable of this, and it will do it. Sasha, what should we do? Because Trump just doesn't care about Ukraine. He gives his blessing to the attacks. He doesn't care at all. He's absolutely impotent when it comes to Putin.
Dasha, I don't have any medicine. I don't have any pill to choose from. Yes, should I take the blue or the red one? I don't have any recipe for this. Look, I only know one thing. I suspect, or rather I have this hypothesis, that in reality, the decision to stop the war against Iran was made partly in Moscow. When the Iranian foreign minister came to Moscow late at night and spoke with Putin, Putin didn't just betray him. He helped Trump reach an agreement and renegotiate. It wasn't Qatar negotiating, it was Putin who was negotiating. And Trump knows this perfectly well. And it seems to me that right now a very difficult, turbulent situation is beginning for all of us. Putin will escalate, expand, and accelerate events, while Trump will turn a blind eye, because Putin helped him with Iran. I don't know if there was an exchange, if there was a deal, maybe there was nothing at all. I don't want to lie, I don't want to exaggerate or overstate things. But it seems to me that Putin was involved. Now, very soon, negotiations between Russia and Ukraine will resume. And we'll see from these negotiations, has Putin become more willing to compromise after the events in Iran? Does he want to make a deal or not? What will Trump's reaction be? Will he allow Putin to strike? You must have noticed that there has been no reaction from Trump to the recent strikes on Kyiv. But there was a reaction in the past. Well, fine, now Iran is over, he has peace. Deal, deal, deal. He has already achieved everything. More precisely, he hasn't achieved the damn thing. He handed the victory to a terrorist country, which will still carry out attacks in Washington. I have no doubt about that. I don't know if there will be an attack near the White House, but in Washington, in New York, they will carry them out. They always do, the Iranian terrorist attacks. This country is a terrorist, a sponsor of terrorism. but he gave them victory. Orwell, a half victory, more precisely, well, definitely not a defeat. Even though this country could have, this regime, to be more precise, could already be lying in ruins and shreds. Vladimir Putin got involved, and we'll see in the near future what Donald Trump will do. And based on what he does, by analyzing his actions, we'll understand whether there was a backroom deal between him and Putin regarding Iran or not. Did Putin sell his services? And what did he trade them for with Donald Trump?
Friends, Sasha and I are working for you. So every like, every comment, and every subscription is invaluable. So we ask you, please stay engaged. Let us know where you're watching from and what you think about all this. A few warm words in support of the armed forces of Ukraine. At the end of every stream, I always ask Sasha for an optimistic forecast. What do you think will happen in the near future? Sasha, please share your optimism, maybe give our audience some hope, which is very important.
Ukraine will respond. Expect a response in the near future. I don't know from whom Maliuk Budanov from Ukraine expect a response. It's clear that we will see more than one special operation in the coming days or weeks on Russian territory. It wasn't for nothing that Maliuk came out and said they tried to do something in Kyiv. And that all these victims in Kyiv, in Dnipro, in Kharkiv, in Odessa, and in many other places in Ukraine, especially in Sumy, in many other Ukrainian regions and cities, there will be accountability for them, for all of them, for this blood. And it seems to me that despite Europe's toothlessness, despite this somewhat toothless NATO summit, yes, despite these wordings, despite Trump, Ukraine, no matter what, will receive a certain amount of aid and will be able to stand up to Putin. And Putin's offensive, I believe in that. There is no certainty, but I believe in it. And I want you to believe in it too, my friends, because the last thing Putin can break is our hope for something better, for a good life without Putin. So I am 100% sure that this will come true, that Putin's summer offensive will stall. And I am certain that after it stalls, very dark days will come for Putin, because not only has karma not been cancelled, but neither have the laws of economics, nor the laws of the Almighty, nor the laws by which humanity lives. That is why I am sure that Vladimir Putin will be punished. But while he is being punished, he will punish all those around him. I don't know what kind of position he'll put each of them in, but there's already a line forming by the wall: Medvedev, Shoigu, and then the rest, according to the list. So expect some very loud news from Russia, both literally and figuratively.
Our format, Dasha plus Sasha, Sasha plus Dasha, call it whatever you like, works just for you. Write a few kind words about the format, let us know what you think. Top analyst Oleksandr Demchenko. Sasha, thank you very much and see you soon.
See you next time. Bye.